If I had to rewire someone's brain to be completely porn-free in 40 days, here's exactly what I do day by day, step by step. Now this is the exact same system that I use with my private clients, and it's the reason why they're able to break free even after 10, 15 or 20 plus years of struggle with this habit, and finally have the mental freedom to connect deeply with God's Spirit. So I know I have the right people watching this video. Go ahead and comment 40 days if you want to be completely porn-free in the next 40 days. My name is Gamaliel, and I help you look at your porn habit with more honesty, curiosity, and compassion without shame or judgment. My approach is a complete departure from outdated model built on addiction labels or willpower-based control. Let's break down that 40-day roadmap that I would use if I wanted someone's brain completely rewired and porn-free in the next 40 days. But first, let me tell you why most approaches fail. Most people are fighting their own brain, and that's exactly why they're doomed to fail from the start. Your brain has three core patterns that are keeping you stuck. And until you address all three of these patterns, you're going to keep ending up in the same cycle over and over again. The first pattern is using porn to escape emotions. So every time you feel bored, anxious, stressed, or lonely, your brain has learned to turn to porn as emotional avoidance. The second pattern is your negative self-concept that creates these shame cycles. You watch, you feel terrible about yourself. You avoid dealing with it. The shame builds up, and then you watch again to escape that shame. And the third pattern is your automatic conditioned responses. Your brain has learned trigger leads to urge, leads to action. And it happens so fast, you feel like you have no control over it. Here's what I want you to understand. Willpower, filters, shame-based motivation, accountability partners, dopamine detox, and cold turkey approaches don't address any of these root causes. They try to control the behavior without changing the brain patterns that create the behavior in the first place. And this includes counting clean days or tracking streaks. Now I know this might be controversial, but hear me out. Counting clean days actually creates two unhealthy mindsets that keep you stuck. Number one, that kind of thinking keeps you stuck in the same old identity. You're keeping yourself in the identity of porn user on streak instead of developing the identity of someone who has no desire for porn. And number two, that approach is just full of shame and self-sabotage if you slip up. You just end up with self-beating and shame-based motivation without learning anything about yourself. The real progress isn't measured by calendar boxes. It's measured by how well you can regulate your emotions and how much you have rewired your brain's automatic responses. And that's exactly why you can white knuckle it for a few days, maybe even a few weeks, but then you end up right back where you started. So let me show you the 40-day roadmap that actually works. This is what I call cognitive repatterning protocol. And it's designed to rewire all three of those brain patterns I just mentioned. And just so you know, this isn't theory for me. I struggled with this habit for 20 years, trying everything, accountability partners, filters, beating myself up, trying to use more discipline. Nothing worked long-term because I was fighting the symptoms instead of addressing what was happening in my brain. What changed everything for me wasn't more control or more willpower. It was learning how to actually retrain the patterns beneath the habit. Alright, so during the first 2 weeks, we're going to rewire your brain's reward system. And this is honestly the most advanced work. It's extinction training for your desires. Now, most of you are familiar with Pavlov's dogs, right? And if you're not, I'm just going to give you a quick overview because it's a really good demonstration of how conditioning works. Pavlov was actually studying dogs for their digestion process. He wasn't studying conditioning at all. But what he noticed was that every time the woman who was responsible for bringing food to the dogs would come down the hall, the dogs would hear those footsteps and start drooling. They had made this association. They had been conditioned to drool and desire the food before it even came to them. And this became an unconscious experience with these dogs. It was something that, because of repetition, kept happening. He later turned it into a bell. He would ring a bell, and that association would happen involuntarily and unconsciously. Ring the bell, even without the food, the desire would start. And that's exactly what's happening in your brain with porn. You have triggers. Maybe it's being alone. Maybe it's opening your laptop. Maybe it's a certain time of day. And your brain starts that drool response, that desire, before you even see any content. So how did they stop the drooling in Pavlov's dogs? They used extinction. They rang the bell and didn't give them any food. Rang the bell, no food. And eventually they stopped drooling. They disconnected the bell from the food, and the drooling stopped. And that's exactly what we need to do with your porn triggers. We need to disconnect your triggers from the action of watching. Now here's the key. The dogs didn't resist wanting the food. They literally lost the association with no resistance or willpower required. Notice how the extinction of the drool didn't require the dogs to get tough or struggle or draw a line in the sand. All it requires was to hear the bell and not get food, and eventually the drool went away. That's the exact process we use to extinguish your over-desire for porn. So during these first 14 days, you're going to learn the urge allowance technique. This means you feel that urge. When your brain rings the bell, you're going to allow that feeling to be there without acting on it. You're not going to resist it. You're not going to fight it. You're not going to distract yourself from it. You're going to become what I call the watcher, someone who can observe their urges without reacting to them. And here's what's really important. You're going to make all decisions from your prefrontal cortex ahead of time. That's the human part of your brain that can think about the future and make conscious choices. You never ever react to a trigger without a plan, because when you do that, you just reinforcing that old conditioning. The goal isn't to resist harder. The goal is to interrupt that pattern where you automatically go from feeling urge to watching porn, and instead pause at the urge so you can choose your response from your thinking brain. Now I want you to understand something really important here. Your desire for porn isn't because you're broken or weak. It's because you have a normal brain that's been conditioned by concentrated dopamine hits. See, the dopamine we get from real-life connection is very mild compared to the dopamine hit we get from pornography. It's like the difference between a coca leaf and concentrated cocaine. We're taking something that naturally gives us some dopamine and concentrated it so intensely that your brain starts treating it as far more important than it really is. But here's the good news. Just like those dogs lost their desire for food when they heard the bell, you can lose your desire for porn when you encounter your triggers. It just takes repetition and patience. Now, in weeks 3 and 4, we're building your emotional foundation. And just like with a house, if you don't have a strong emotional foundation, your freedom is going to crumble down. Here's what most people don't understand. You cannot outrun emotions you want to feel. See, most porn use isn't actually about sex or even pleasure. It's about emotional escape. Every time you feel bored, anxious, stressed, lonely, restless, or overwhelmed, Your brain has learned to turn to porn as a way to avoid feeling those emotions. And here's the thing. When you decide to stop watching porn but you haven't learned how to handle your emotions, you're going to experience what I call emotional dopamine withdrawal. You're going to feel that uncomfortable feeling that comes up when the urge goes unanswered. And you're going to think something's gone terribly wrong. But that withdrawal feeling is completely normal. It's not a sign that you need to go back to porn. It's a sign that you're breaking the pattern. Most of us have been conditioned to believe that we should feel good all the time, that we should feel happy and comfortable all the time. And if we don't feel good, we think we need to solve that immediately with some kind of pleasure or distraction. But what I teach you during these 2 weeks is what I call emotional adulthood. And emotional adulthood means being willing to feel any emotion without escaping from it. Think about it. There's no emotion that's actually going to harm you. Anxiety won't kill you. Boredom won't hurt you. Loneliness is just a feeling. But we've been so afraid of these emotions that we do anything to avoid them. During this phase, you're going to learn the difference between what I call indulgent emotions and useful emotions. Useful emotions give you information and help you take action. Indulgent emotions just keep you stuck in drama and make you want to escape. For example, if you're feeling anxious about a work project, that's useful because it's telling you to prepare or take action. But if you're beating yourself up about watching porn last week, that's indulgent. It's not helping you move forward. It's just making you feel terrible. And here's the most important part. You're going to learn how to build a relationship with yourself instead of constantly beating yourself up. Because here's what I've noticed. The worse you treat yourself, the more you're going to want to escape into porn. Now, for some of you, this emotional work might bring up deeper things. Maybe past experiences or trauma that you've been avoiding. And that's completely normal. Sometimes porn becomes a way to numb not just daily stress, but deeper emotional pain. If that's you, this emotional ownership work is still the foundation, but you might also need additional one-on-one coaching to work through those deeper layers. But whether you're dealing with everyday emotions or deeper trauma, the principle is the same. You have to learn how to treat yourself with compassion. When you start telling yourself there's something wrong with you, that you're a piece of crap, that you're not doing anything right, that creates an environment in your brain that's constantly seeking pleasure and escape from those beatings. So one of the most powerful things you can do during this phase is refuse to beat yourself up over anything. There's absolutely no upside to it. Getting mad at yourself for watching porn has never helped you stop long term, right? Maybe temporarily, but never long term because it defeats your relationship with yourself, which is the foundation of everything. Now the final phase is where you're going to rebuild your entire self-concept. And this is where most programs fail because they try to change behavior without changing identity. See, right now your brain is stuck in thoughts like, I can't stop, I'm broken, I always mess up, I'm addicted. These aren't just surface thoughts. They are mental patterns your brain has practiced over and over again. And those thoughts are what create your current results. Here's what I want you to understand. Your thoughts create your feelings, which creates your actions, which creates your results. So if you want different results, you have to start with different thoughts. But you cannot just jump from I can't stop straight to I'm totally free because your brain won't believe you. It actually backfires. The thought feels fake and you feel even more stuck. That's where cognitive laddering comes in. We build a ladder of believable thoughts, mental steps that you can actually believe right now. So instead of trying to live from I can stop to I'm totally free with great steps like maybe it's possible to change. I'm learning how to stop. I can make it through this urge without reacting. I'm becoming someone who doesn't need porn. These thoughts might seem small, but they work because your brain believes them. And belief is what rewires your habits. Now, part of this cognitive work is what I call refining freedom. Most people think freedom means never having an urge again or never being tempted, but that's not realistic. And it sets you up for failure. Real freedom means you can have an urge and not be controlled by it. Real freedom means you develop the identity of someone who simply doesn't want porn anymore, not someone who's fighting against it every day. During this phase, you're also going to learn what I call the 4C mindset. Instead of approaching this with shame and struggle, you're going to approach it with curiosity, compassion, consciousness, and choice. And here's the most important shift. You're moving from a shame-based identity to an empowered identity. Instead of I'm someone who struggles with porn addiction, you become I'm someone who's learned how to regulate my emotions and make conscious choices. This isn't just positive thinking. This is literally rewiring your brain's self-concept. Because when you change how you see yourself, your behavior naturally follows. By the end of these 40 days, you won't be someone who's trying not to watch porn. You'll be someone who generally doesn't want it because you changed at the identity level. Now, if you're thinking, Gamaliel, this sounds amazing, but I tried everything before. Therapy, accountability partners, support groups, no-fap, you name it. And nothing has worked long-term. I totally get it. But here's what I want you to understand. Those approaches were trying to control your behavior without rewiring your brain. They were focused on the symptom instead of the cause. This cognitive repatterning protocol is different because it addresses all three brain patterns that keep you stuck: your conditioned responses, your emotional patterns, and your identity. Most programs only address one of these, which is why they fail. Maybe you're thinking, 40 days seems like a long time, or I need to be free faster than that. But let me ask you this. How long have you been struggling with this? 5 years, 10 years, 20 years like I was? Your brain didn't get conditioned overnight, and it's not going to get rewired overnight either. But 40 days to completely transform your relationship with porn after years or decades of struggles. That's actually incredibly fast. Or you may be thinking, what if I slip up during the 40 days? What if I relapse after that? Here's the thing. In my approach, there are no relapses, only learning opportunities. Every time you watch porn, it's data about what triggered you and what you need to work on. It's not a failure, it's feedback. And here's some tough love for you. If what you're doing right now isn't working, when is it going to work? Next month, next year, in 5 years? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. If willpower and shame-based motivation worked for you, you wouldn't be watching this video right now. You have to make a decision. Are you going to keep trying the same approaches that haven't worked? Or are you ready to try something that actually addresses how your brain works? That's exactly why I created my 40-day cognitive repatterning program. This is a comprehensive system that takes you through all three protocols with daily implementation: desire deconditioning, emotional ownership, and cognitive laddering. Now, this program includes all the specific modules and lessons I mentioned. You get the complete framework for rewiring your brain's reward system. You get the emotional regulation tools that most people never learn, and you get the identity transformation work that makes the change permanent. But here's what makes it different from just watching YouTube videos or reading books about this stuff. You get one-on-one support and accountability throughout the entire process. I had clients tell me that they finally understand why they couldn't stop before. They were fighting their brain instead of working with it. Others have said, for the first time in 15 years, they don't feel like they white knuckling it, and they generally don't want porn anymore. One client told me he used to count clean days and beat himself up every time he slept. Now he says he doesn't even think about porn anymore. It's like his brain just lost interest in it completely. And here's what many of my clients discover. When you free up all that mental energy and space that was consumed by this habit, you can finally connect with your deeper purpose and spiritual calling. You're no longer distracted or weighed down by shame and secrecy. Your mind becomes clear, your heart becomes open, and you can fully step into who you're meant to be. Now, this program does have limited availability because I work closely with everyone who joins, and I can only support so many people at once while maintaining the quality of the experience. And I want to be completely honest with you, it isn't the cheapest option out there. You could keep trying free YouTube videos and willpower-based approaches. But if those worked, you wouldn't still be struggling. You have to ask yourself, what is it worth to finally be free from this? What is it worth to not have to worry about clearing your browse history or being triggered by random content online? What is it worth to have genuine confidence and not feel like you live in a double life? What is it worth to have clear mind and open heart for your spiritual growth? This program is an investment in becoming the person you actually want to be, and the results speak for themselves. If you're ready to stop guessing and start seeing real results, if you're tired of the shame cycle and ready to broach this with science instead of willpower, then go to the link in the description to learn more about the Stop Overporning program. This is your opportunity to finally solve this at the root level instead of just managing symptoms. Don't let another 40 days go by doing the same things that haven't worked.